It's been a bad 3 weeks for the Tennessee Titans, but JC Latham looks legit at left tackle. We'll talk about that and more on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On today's show, look, it's been a rough start to the season for the Titans, but there are some bright spots, including JC Latham, the wide receivers, and we're going to talk about how the Tennessee Titans can turn this thing around. Before I get into it, do want to thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. And if you aren't an everydayer, well, you need to be one. I'm going to continue to bring optimism here while also acknowledging the problems for the Titans. But we got a winnable Monday Night Football game ahead. I'm going to be breaking down everything. We got crossover Thursday. I'm going to have a mailbag on Friday. You don't want to miss any of that. And over on the Tic Tac Titans film channel, I'm going to have the Week 3 Tic Tac Titans 4-pack out on Monday night at about 8 p.m. Eastern, going over the best 4 plays of the week from the Titans. We're going to look at JC Latham's performance on the film channel as well. And with that in mind, that's exactly where I want to start here is JC Latham. So, again, I know that there's been a lot of bad for the Tennessee Titans these first 3 weeks. I am as depressed as any of you about where this team is at and their performance that we've seen. Trust me in that. And if you missed my episode recapping the game on yesterday's show, well, you know exactly how I'm feeling. I'm just as down as all of you guys. But we have to remember there are some bright spots, even if only a few. There are some bright spots in here through these first 3 weeks, starting with the Titans' first-round pick. And I think it's fair to say at this point that JC Latham has had the best start of any Titans first-round pick in quite some time, all right? Because JC Latham looks like a legitimate franchise left tackle, okay? It was a tough week 1. Let's acknowledge the reality. Darrell Taylor put a clown suit on him. He gave up 5 pressures and 2 sacks in week 1 against Darrell Taylor. 5 pressures, 1 sack, okay? But in the past 2 weeks, JC Latham has been far and away the Tennessee Titans' best offensive lineman. Now, that's not a very high bar. Let's just be honest about that right now with the performance of the offensive line through the first 3 weeks. It wouldn't really take a lot to be their best offensive lineman. But we got to give the rookie the credit that he's due because he looks like a true answer at left tackle for the Titans. And again, that is considering the switch from right back to left. That is considering that Latham was a guy who maybe would struggle with the speed at the NFL level early on. There was going to be an adjustment period for a rookie coming into the NFL. And JC Latham's 21 years old. So this is a young player who's still developing not only as a player, but as a man. That's a big part of this. Think about where you were at when you were 21 and how you are right now. And if you're younger than 21, well, just give yourself some grace. Be patient. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to grow. Keep that in mind. But the reality here is Latham hasn't just been good on the standard of the best offensive lineman for the Tennessee Titans. Latham has been good inside the NFL, period. So over the past 2 weeks, JC Latham has allowed 0 sacks and only 2 pressures. Think about that with how Will Levis has been under siege the last few weeks. It's not JC Latham's fault. And Brian Callahan even pointed it out. We think JC Latham has played pretty well. JC Latham has played well. It's not JC Latham's fault that this is happening. 79 snaps over the past 2 weeks. 0 sacks, only 2 pressures, 1 a game. Gave up 1 pressure in each game. That's fantastic. If you go look at the Pro Football Focus grades, 21st overall amongst offensive tackles in the NFL. If you make it 100 snaps minimum, he's like 16. Okay? So a top half of the NFL starter already in his first 3 weeks as a rookie. He's 19th in run blocking grade. He's 33rd in pass blocking grade. Pretty impressive. If you look at rookie offensive linemen in the NFL, among players who played at least 13 snaps in week 3, JC Latham was the best rookie offensive lineman. He only gave up 2.3% of the time of pressure. So only giving up a pressure on 2.3% of the snaps. That's excellent. Now, ESPN's analytics haven't updated for week 3, but if you go back to last week, and JC Latham played good in this game, so it's probably going to stay exactly where it's at. Going into week 3, JC Latham was fourth in the NFL amongst offensive tackles in run block win rate. How often he's winning his blocks in the run game. I mean, for a second week in a row, he was the highest graded Tennessee Titans offensive lineman, 81.8 pass blocking grade, first overall for the Titans offensive line. He was the third best overall player, period, on the offense in overall Pro Football Focus grade. And let me tell you this, it's not just these analytics and these stats that I'm giving you. Go watch the tape. The way he's able to do what we saw in college, lock people down with his hands, have a good anchor and good gravity and good base. And he's getting better at dealing with speed. I mean, Darrell Taylor was a shock to the system for him, I'm sure. But JC Latham looks like the trench king out there. And while the offensive line is probably the worst part of this team right now, every Tennessee Titans fan should at least be able to take a sigh of relief and say, I don't know if we have the quarterback. I don't know if we have other things solved, but it looks like right now. And remember, the Jets have a decent defensive front. The Packers have a really good defensive line. JC Latham had some great snaps against Quinnen Williams last week. He's one of the best interior defensive linemen in the whole NFL. Probably top 5, top 6. So Latham is going up against very good players in the past 2 weeks while putting on these performances. So a lot is going wrong. A lot has been ugly. And there's reason for depression for Titans fans. But we have a legitimate cornerstone left tackle. And that is something that even throughout all the nonsense, you have to be happy about that. That should give you some semblance of joy, knowing that one of the top 5 most important positions in all of football, the Titans could be set for a decade there. So congratulations, JC Latham. You have been one of the only bright spots on this team through the first 3 weeks. But he's not alone. The Titans wide receivers look as advertised now with DeAndre Hopkins back to his old self. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board, okay? LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you aren't looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. It's why 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. I'm choosing to be optimistic on today's show. I know that it's easy to just go negative after that performance. And trust me, guys, I am as down about the start to this season as you could possibly be. I've been tweeting through it on Twitter at Tic Tac Titans. Follow me over there. But the reality is there are some bright spots here. And we just talked about JC Latham and how good he's looked through the first 3 weeks. Really looks like a legitimate left tackle and makes me feel better about missing out on Joe Alt and Malik Neighbors because they're great players too. So hopefully JC Latham is just great as well. And then we never have to have FOMO. But he's not alone. I think this Tennessee Titans wide receiver group has been as advertised, and that was never more obvious than DeAndre Hopkins looking like himself once again in this game against the Green Bay Packers. So that's where I want to start with DeAndre Hopkins, because I feel like him playing well again after a really quiet first 2 weeks coming back from injury, him playing well can help the Tennessee Titans in multiple ways, okay? So DeAndre Hopkins played 25 snaps in this game. He had 6 catches on 7 targets, 73 yards in the touchdown. And the touchdown was just classic DeAndre Hopkins making a play at the goal line with guys all over him. So love to see that. He finally looked like himself again. He was coming back from the knee injury that he suffered in the preseason, and he didn't quite look like himself in the first 2 weeks, but he looks better, and it makes sense. He finally came off the injury report before the game in week 3, and he looks like he wasn't injured. Okay, so really love to see that from DeAndre Hopkins. And that's huge because to me, DeAndre Hopkins is Will Levis' safety blanket. When there is no one to go to, when no one is open, when the pocket is collapsing, which is every single snap, Will Levis could just throw it up to DeAndre Hopkins. And more often than not, DeAndre Hopkins is going to make a play on the ball. And he may catch it, or he may just prevent the defensive back from catching it, which paging Treylon Burks, that's something that you can also do. You know what I mean? But seeing DeAndre Hopkins and Will Levis get that chemistry back, that's absolutely crucial if the Titans are going to turn this thing around, if Levis is going to turn this thing around, if the Titans are going to find a way to win ball games, because the pressure is not going to stop. The right side of the offensive line is bad. Cushenberry and Skoronski have had some poor moments as well. So if that's going to be the reality for the rest of the season, which I do think the offensive line will get a little bit better, but the right side probably will not, because they could play Jalen Duncan. Jalen Duncan is worse than Nicholas Petit-Frere. I know that's hard to believe, and I know that at some point you got to change something because you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity, right? My guy, Albert Einstein, who I have a poster of on my wall. But at the end of the day, if the pressure is going to be constant on Will Levis, he has to have somebody who he can trust to just throw the ball up to. And DeAndre Hopkins, throughout his career, has never been an elite separator. He's not a guy with elite speed. I mean, he used to be faster when he was younger. Obviously, you lose a couple of steps as you get older, but it was never DeAndre Hopkins' game to be an elite separator. He was always a contested catch guy. He was always a combat catch guy. That's how DeAndre Hopkins has become a Hall of Famer, is winning those situations, even though they're low win situations. He makes them high win situations. So Will Levis finally getting that chemistry back with DeAndre Hopkins is absolutely critical for the Titans. It's critical for their success. And it makes everything easier on Will Levis to have somebody who he may look covered, he may be covered, but he can find a way to still win those battles. And that's not something that Calvin Ridley is going to be excellent at. That's not something that Tyler Boyd is necessarily going to be excellent at, but that is where DeAndre Hopkins excels. So they really need that from him going forward. And then, of course, you look at the wide receiver group as a whole here. Tyler Boyd, I know he had a drop yesterday. But Tyler Boyd kind of looked like the Tyler Boyd that we expected. Now, I don't expect Tyler Boyd to have these monster statistical games. He had 3 catches for 33 yards, but 2 of those catches created first downs. And that is what Tyler Boyd was brought here to do. Tyler Boyd was brought here to be a chain mover. Tyler Boyd wasn't brought here to be 6 catches, 73 yards and a touchdown, or, 4 catches, 90 yards and a touchdown. That's what Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins are for. If Tyler Boyd can have 3 or 4 catches for 30 to 55 yards every week or every other week, or that is what he was brought here to do, to be the third wide receiver, to be the slot guy, to be a chain mover. He's not the big play weapon. That was never his role. So even though he did have a drop, drops are going to happen. It's just part of the NFL. You're never going to have somebody who just never drops a football ever. unless they're Larry Fitzgerald, who has more tackles than drops in his career. That was crazy, right? But Tyler Boyd had a good game, and I think seeing Tyler Boyd be a chain mover for the Titans and create 2 first downs on 3 of his catches, like, that's a positive sign. That's something that should make Titans fans happy. And look, I know Calvin Ridley was quiet in this game, 1 catch for 9 yards, but through the first 2 weeks, Calvin Ridley should have had banger games. I know he had the 1 drop against the Jets, but he's been wide open multiple times and been missed. And outside of those bad plays, he's just made good plays. You know what I mean? He's been productive through the first 3 weeks of the season as an overall view. So I think that we've seen Calvin Ridley make big plays and be explosive for the Titans offense. Now we see DeAndre Hopkins being that safety blanket for Will Levis. We see Tyler Boyd being the chain mover for the Titans. And I would even throw the tight ends in here. Josh Wiley had a good catch on the opening drive. Chikakonkwo got a little bit involved. Better games, obviously, are available for Chikakonkwo. Nick Van Eck catches a touchdown pass. Like, the weapons that the Titans have. See, I am mostly concerned, of course, about the right side of the offensive line. I am concerned about Will Levis. Those are the things that I'm concerned about the most. The pass rush for the Titans. Those are the things I'm concerned about the most, obviously. But to be real, I think the running backs have been as advertised. When the Titans even have a semblance of decent blocking, they do well. And Tyler Boyd and Tajay Spears have made people miss and gotten more than's been available for him. Like, Tony Pollard was one of the top 15 running backs in rushing yards over expected through 2 weeks of the season. So the running backs, I think, have been making plays when there are plays there and making something out of nothing sometimes as well. The wide receivers have been able to do their job for the most part, with Hopkins finally catching up here in week 3. The tight ends as a group, there's no elite tight end in there, of course, but as a group have been doing okay. So while there's a lot of bad, and as I explained in the first segment, there is reason for depression in the fan base. No doubt about it. I'm not going to talk you off the ledge. I get it. I was staring at the Cumberland on my way home like, what if I just, tied a cinder block to my foot and dove in? You know what I mean? So if you feel like that, I can't blame you. I'm joking, of course. But I don't blame Titans fans for being upset, depressed, sad about how things have started. But if you're paying attention, some of the things that we hoped for, JC Latham, Tavondre Sweat, the wide receivers, the tight ends, the running backs, kind of been what I expected. It's been the offensive line and Will Levis and the pass rush that have let us down. And if you're honest with yourself, coming into the season, the 3 biggest X factors for this team were, is Will Levis going to be any good? Is this offensive line going to be improved? Are the Titans going to be able to get enough pressure without a very good pass rush? And unfortunately, all 3 of the biggest X factors through the first 3 weeks have gone poorly, have not worked out. So I know that it's hard to find any silver linings here, but the reality is there are some, if you want to be honest. So some people aren't going to be honest. They're going to be boohoo. They're going to be doomsday no matter what. But at some point, even if this season does not go the way that we hope, there are things to like from this group. And I'm just going to whisper this, and maybe we'll talk about it in a couple of weeks, but hopefully D-Hop continues to look good, because if the Titans really are 2-5, 1-6, he's probably going to get the Titans a decent mid-round draft pick at the trade deadline. So that's a conversation for another day, but can't help but have that in the back of my mind. But let's hope that the Tennessee Titans turn this thing around and they have an opportunity to do just that. I'll explain why. Before I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Hey, Titans fans, you can start with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, or if you have a hunch right now that the Titans might lose, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more on the same pages where you place your bets on FanDuel Sportsbook. Plus, right now, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. The Titans are, I think, 1.5 point favorites right now in Miami. Insane, I know, but you could take advantage of that on FanDuel. So make sure that you visit FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. It's an optimism. See, I'm having trouble even saying it, but it's the reality. It's an optimistic episode, okay? There are some silver linings in here in this 0-3 start, and I felt like we needed some positivity today. So I hope you guys are enjoying looking at some of the positives for the Titans. And I am going to take an optimistic view on the next few weeks for the Titans here. Before I dive into it, I do want to thank you again for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Also, check out the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel where I break down all the film. I'm going to have the Tic Tac 4-pack up on Monday night. I'm going to have well, it's not going to be as optimistic for Tuesday, but I am going to take a look at all 8 of the Tennessee Titans sacks on Tuesday morning and take a look at how they happened. And Wednesday, I'm going to take a look at JC Latham's performance and spin the optimism forward for you guys. So check that out. Also, for your second listen, check out Locked On NFL. I am the host of Locked On NFL every day of the week now. So I would appreciate your guys' support over there if you wouldn't mind checking out Locked On NFL. But the Titans are 0-3. And if you look at the numbers and you look at the percentages, the odds of going 0-3 and then making it back to the playoffs or having a winning record, they're pretty low. All right. I don't even want to talk about the numbers because they're low. All right. Now, with there being 14 playoff teams now compared to 12, which is what it was for most of my life, the odds are better that you could turn things around. But really, when I say turn things around for the Titans, I don't even necessarily mean the playoffs or a winning record, or I'll be honest with you, I think those things are out the window. But the Titans can play better football and not make us so miserable on Sundays. Like, could we get a win? Just one, just to feel alive again. That, like, honestly, I'm not a podcaster right now. I'm not an analyst. I'm not a film junk. I'm just simply a fan, just like you guys. And I just want to watch my football team win on a Sunday and not feel like this on a Monday. Like, I'm praying for thunderstorms. I'm just in the dumps, man. At the end of the day, I'm in the dumps, just like you guys. So the Titans can look better. They can turn things around, and they have an opportunity to do so over the next few weeks. So number one, of course, as I talked about last week, my everydayers will remember, the Titans are going to go to Miami. And what happened last year in Miami? One of Will Levis's best performances. I know that the opening debut against the Falcons is probably what people remember the most, but that comeback on Monday Night Football in Miami, that was probably Will Levis's best game last year because of his resilience and to drive the team back and the intensity and the comeback at the end and that throw on the corner route to NWI. Oh my God, I still think about it. So I think Will Levis could find something special in Miami, and he could have a confidence boost because he's been in that building on Monday Night Football and done it before. Okay. Also, the elephant in the room, Miami doesn't have any quarterbacks. Skylar Thompson got hurt. They were playing Tim Boyle. They have Snoop Huntley, who, I'll be honest with you, I hope and pray that they don't play Snoop Huntley. I'm scared to death of Snoop Huntley after watching what Malik did last week. All credit to Malik, but Snoop Huntley is a better player than Malik Willis. So if Malik did that to the Titans, Snoop is going to smoke the Titans. That's a funny joke. I hope you guys appreciated that. But anyways, in theory, with this Titans team, everything is in theory. Yeah, exactly, Siri. You understand it as well. But in theory, the Titans should be able to beat the Miami Dolphins with the third string, fourth string quarterback, So if the Titans can do that and move to 1-3, and then they go into their bye week, and then they play the Colts at home. I mean, look at the division. Houston is 2-1. Indy is 1-2. And the Bears suck, which makes me even sadder that the Titans couldn't figure out a way to win that game. But the Bears suck, and the Colts could. Anthony Richardson has been awful. He's thrown a bunch of interceptions just like Will Levis. And look, I'm not like hating on Anthony. I can't hate on Anthony Richardson when Will Levis leads the league in turnovers. Trust me, that's not what I'm doing. But I'm just saying Anthony Richardson has been a disappointment as well and been a turnover machine as well. The Jags are 0-2. And in all honesty, I know a lot of you guys will listen to this on Tuesday morning when the game is over, but the Jags play the Bills. The Jags could be 0-3 when you're listening to this. So the Jags are 0-3. The Colts are an ugly 1-2. The Texans got smoked by Sam Darnold and the Vikings. They're only 2-1. The Titans are only 2 games off of the division as things stand right now. So they have 6 division games left. You come out of the bye week at 1-3. You play the Colts. You go to 2-3. You're right there. You're right there. You're right back in the thick of it. And then look, after that, it's ugly, folks. They play at Buffalo and at Detroit. Probably not good. But we've seen bad Tennessee Titans teams or mid Tennessee Titans teams win crazy games. And if the Titans were to win against the Dolphins, go to the bye week, correct some things schematically. Remember, Brian Callahan in Cincinnati. Cincinnati always got off to a slow start with Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, and Brian Callahan. Like Joe Burrow's 1-4 in week ones. Zach Taylor's 1-5 in week ones. Through the first month of the season, the Bengals always look bad, but then Brian Callahan adjusts the offense to what they do best, and then the Bengals go on a run. Now, the Titans don't have Bengals talent. I already could see the comments. Well, the Titans don't have Joe Burrow. The Titans don't have Jamar Chase. You're right. You're right. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it's possible. There's a chance. So, if the Titans were to beat the Dolphins in a game that they should win, and then go to the bye and iron some stuff out, figure out what they do well, what they don't do well, and then beat Indianapolis for their first division win, and God forbid, win one of the games against the Lions and Bills, now they're 3-4 with 5 division games ahead of them that they don't even start again. They don't play another division game until week 12. They got a game against the Patriots. They got a game against the Raiders. They got a game against the Chargers, and Justin Herbert's health is up in the air right now. Like, the Titans could absolutely roll off some wins in the middle of the season. And we could look up going into a week 12 matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Titans are 5-6, 6-5. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it's likely because it's not, but it's possible. So, again, I'm just trying to breathe some optimism into everybody right now. Latham has been excellent. The wide receivers look as advertised. Hopkins is back. And although they're 0-3 and it's bad and it's ugly and the numbers don't say it, they could, in theory, turn things around. And it's not like they're playing, juggernauts the next couple of weeks. So let's just see what happens. Let's just see how it shakes out. But that is all the optimism that I can muster, folks. So that is going to do it for me. Make sure that you throw a thumbs up on the video, throw a tighten up down in the chat. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.